Hey guys, nice to meet you. My name is Zane, aka ZORE'S Code. I'm currently opening up this YouTube channel to go through and share my process as I go along the journey of becoming a full stack web developer. So, a little introduction on who I am. I'm from Australia. I'm currently living in Portugal, Lisbon, with my beautiful girlfriend. And things I love to do is I love sports, hanging out with friends, but in particular, I love to code. And I came across coding a year and a half ago when I was studying to be a graphic designer. But then I really learned to love to code once I started to dive into the Web3 space a little bit more and understanding these technologies. So you may ask, why are you on YouTube and why am I listening to you right now? And the reason being is this YouTube video or this YouTube channel is to go through and document my journey along the process of how I'm going to break into this tech field, even in this current time that we're in at the moment. So with that being said, I hope you enjoy the content. I hope this helps you along your journey and your process. And if it doesn't and you just enjoying the videos, well, that's so let's go through and dive into the 4 mindset shifts that I've gone through and implemented to allow me to really expand my learning without burning out and really enjoying the process along the way. Well, most of the time. So also, if you do have any tips or tricks for people like myself who are looking to get into the field, please leave a comment below. I'm sure people will go through and read that and really learn from it because I've done that many times before on other people's videos. So number one, being goal orientated. So the importance of this with anything in life is you need to see where you're going. We need to be looking forward. We need to go through and say, hey, look, this is what I'm going to achieve. And this is what I'm going to do what I'm going to do to achieve it, right? Basically with coding or learning any new skill, you need to go through and dedicate time towards that craft. You need to go through and look at your calendar and say, hey, look, I've got this many days this week free, and I've got this many hours free within different blocks. I'm going to go through and set a standard for myself. When you set a standard for yourself with goals in mind, what happens there is you're going through and achieving you want to go through and achieve successful habits to move you towards that goal. A good way to explain this as well is go through and learn to love the steps you're taking along the journey instead of trying to leap into it and becoming a master within a week, right? So when it comes to HTML, you need to understand that this is the skeleton of the web. When it comes to CSS, you need to understand this is how you go through and make things look pretty. Before you go through and start doing DOM manipulation, you need to go through and firstly understand what a p tag is or how to structure a HTML document, right? So this is a really important step. Number one is just go through and enjoy the process, but have goals and set those goals and then set yourself some habits to achieve those goals or to get yourself closer every day or every week. Number two, learn to love the process. And what I mean by this is learn to love the journey instead of the outcome, yeah? Because there's so many people in this life when it comes to starting a business or starting something new, the journey along the way is far more fulfilling compared to the end result. A lot of people attach success, glory, purpose behind this goal, and then once they've achieved it, they feel like, oh, okay, like I don't really feel as good as I thought I'd feel. It hasn't answered all the questions, right? So what I mean by this is learn to love the process, and instead of getting stressed or worried about how far you need to go in this process, don't forget to look back and go, wow, how far have I came, right? So what I mean by this is, let's say you're starting to learn and understand promises and APIs. And when I got there, I was a little bit stressed out as well. I was like, how does this work? Like, what's going on? And then I'll get stressed and I'll think to myself, I'm like, man, like, you're stupid. Like, you don't know what's going on. And to be fair, maybe I am. And that's fine. But I learned to look back and go, man, remember when I thought about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript like this? And then I've kind of looked back and I'm like, yeah, I was there with this process, and it's just going to take time and effort to go through and move forward as a person to become a better version of myself. So yeah, I hope that really helps there. And now let's move on to step number 3. Something that I've really implemented is learning to fail forward. And that might just be like, what do you mean by that? How can you fail forward? And what I mean by this is Thomas Edison, the perfect example. I don't know how many times he failed, but it was a substantial more amount of time than you've probably gone through and stuck out. And I'm not being rude here, but he did, of course, invent the light bulb, and I think also concrete as well. So what I mean by that is when you fail forward, you understand that failing is a part of the process towards success and getting good at something. I love to skateboard, I also love to surf, and when I first jumped on my skateboard, I got cuts and bruises all over me. And that was the failing process until I was able to roll on forward and finally get maybe my first ollie off my skateboard. And that was an amazing feeling. And the process along the way was painful, but it was so worth the result at the end. And then I could move on forward onto the next process of failing forward to get to the next step. So don't forget to enjoy those moments. I know it's tough to say when you're in the time and you're ripping at your hair trying to figure out a problem on code walls or something like that. This brings us on to tip number 4, attacking your weaknesses head on. And what I mean by this, as a person who has been controlled by fear a lot before in his past and will happen in his future, is let's go through and say fear is, let's put it into a fable story. You have fear, it's this dragon that looks scary. And you look at this dragon and you feel like you're not strong enough to face it. And when this happens, there is we go through and walk the other way, and we learn to go through and allow fear to hold us back. But what happens if you go through and face that dragon, and behind the dragon you never knew, but there's a pot of gold waiting, or there's a new skill or a new asset or a new possibility behind the door? The thing is, when we go through and face our weaknesses head on, it allows us to become more mentally strong, but also allows us to move forward where we need to move forward. Perfect example of this was for myself, learning promises and APIs. I brought it up before because it was a long-winded journey for me. And what I did to go through and get better at that is I didn't watch a bunch of YouTube videos about it. I went through, opened up VS Code Studio, and every day I would go through and implement and understand it by writing it myself, reading the docs, which was quite scary at the time. And now I could say I'm not a master, but I understand it a lot more, and has allowed me to move forward on my process of learning. So basically, that's my 4 tips for today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed it. Don't forget to go through and leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what helps you along your process. And yeah, I'll keep you posted along my journey. And if there's any ideas of what you would like to see next, make sure to send us a message. Have a great day and enjoy